यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राध माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राध माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा श्रील प्रभुपदा जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजक अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्री विष्णु से भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन संस्थापक श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजक अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद श्रील गौर किशोर ब्रजभावी महाराज की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद सच्चिदानंद श्री भक्तिविनोद ठाकुर की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास महाराज की जय। जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास कृष्ण गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। नमाचार्य श्रीदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से को श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत दादर शिव साधि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपिनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। श्री श्री गौरांगी बैंगलोरेश्वर भगवान की जय। श्री मायपुर धाम की जय। श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय, यमुना माई की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वंदे की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, इस्कॉन वर्तमान गुरु वंदे की जय। Samamit Bhaktivinda ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembly. It's all glories to the assembly. It's all glories to the assembly. It's all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Apatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishti. Hare Krishna, welcome to Friday morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 12, Text 49-50. Paurnamasyaam Sinivalyam Dvadasyam Shravane Thava Deenakrikshaye Vitipate Shankrame Kadine Piva Shravaya Chadradhananham Tirtha Padashrayah Nechyam Statratmanatmanham Santushta iti Siddhyati Paurnamasyaam Sinivalyam Dvadasyam Shravane Tava Deenakshaye Vyatipate Shankrame Kadine Piva Shravayech Shraddadhananham Tirtha Nechyam Statratmanatmanham Santushta iti Siddhyati Paurnamasyaam Sinivalyam Dvadasyam Shravane Tava Deenakshaye Vyatipate Sankramer Kadine Piva Shraveye Shraddadhananham Tirtha Nechyam Statratmanatmanham Santushta iti Siddhyati. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Persons who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord should recite this narration of Dhruva Maharaj without taking remuneration. Specifically, recitation is recommended on the full moon or dark moon day, on the day after Ekadasi, on the appearance of the Shravana star at the end of a particular tithi, or the occasion of Vyatipata at the end of the month or on Sunday. Such recitation should of course be performed before a favorable audience. When the recitation is performed this way without professional motive, the reciter and the audience become perfect. Professional reciters may ask money to extinguish the blazing fire within their bellies, but they cannot make any spiritual improvement or become perfect. It is therefore strictly forbidden to recite Srimad Bhagavatam as a profession to earn a livelihood. Only one who is completely surrendered to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, depending fully on him for personal maintenance or even for maintenance of his family, can attain perfection by recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is full of narrations of the pastimes of the Lord and his devotees. The process can be summarized as follows. The audience must be faithfully receptive to the Bhagavata message, and the reciter should completely depend on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavata recitation must not be a business. If done in the right way, not only does the reciter achieve perfect satisfaction, but the Lord is also very satisfied with the reciter and the audience, and thus both are liberated from material bondage simply by the process of hearing. Om Ajnana-Tinmirandasya Jnananjana-Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Mahyam Dadati Padantikam Vandeham Sri Gurum Siddhapadakamalam Shri Guran Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shivanishta Devi Pranamami Hari Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripasindubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Moham Karade Vachalam, Rubna Devikram, Etkabata Muhammad, Sigurum Dratan, Alman, Madhum Shi Chaitanya Meshwaram. Hare Krishna. So this verse, previous verses onwards, previous onwards, and up to the end of this chapter, there is one more verse left out. These verses are called Palastuti. In many chapters, we will find in the end of the chapter, there is a conclusion which says that by reciting these pastimes or reciting the narrations of the so-and-so personalities, one can be liberated from material bondage, or one can attain higher planetary systems, or one can be delivered from the cycle of birth and death. So this is why it is called Falasruti. That means the result of uh, hearing the narrations of this personality. So here we find that one who recites the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj uh, by persons who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord uh, without taking remuneration, that is recommended. And when such recommended recitation is done with a good audience, then there is the perfection of the speaker, the hearer, and all those who are hearing. So we'll take some important points from this. First point is that only those who have taken shelter of the Supreme Lord should recite this narration of Dhruva Maharaj without taking remuneration. So one thing is that devotional service is not a business. So one should not demand monetary benefit or any benefit in the process of reciting the narration of Dhruva Maharaj. Not only in the process of narrating Dhruva Maharaj, but in the process of giving a discourse on Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, one should not expect any remuneration. That is one point. The other point is that those who have taken complete shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, they should recite the narration of Dhruva Maharaj, not only Dhruva Maharaj, but Srimad Bhagavatam itself or Bhagavad Gita itself, in order to have some impact on the audience. One important point is that Lord's lotus feet is the shelter for all. So Lord's lotus feet is the umbrella that anyone can get, and it can give relief from all material miseries eternally. So why Lord's lotus feet? Because normally the Lord's lotus feet is considered very important, at least for the beginners or the sadhakas. So even while seeing a deity, one should start for meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord and gradually go up to the thighs, calves, thighs, and then waist, chest, and so forth, up to face and the head of the Lord. That is a way of meditating on the Lord. We don't straight away see the face of the Lord. So anyone who takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord gets relief from all material miseries. There is also a sloka in Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, wherein Lord Brahma is praying to the Supreme Lord, which Prabhupada often quotes in his classes. Shamashita ye pada pada pallava plavam mahat padam punyash yaya shomurare bhavam buddhir dirvatas padam param padam 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 yat vipadam natesham. Translation says, for those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is a shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Murari, the enemy of Muradhaman, the ocean of the material world is like a water contained in a calf's footprint. Their goal is Param Vaikunta, the place where there are no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. Also, there are some important points there. One who has taken the shelter of the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord. That means this whole material world is compared to an ocean. And to cross over this ocean of birth and death, one needs to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which is compared to a boat. So this Lord is also called as Murari because the Lord killed a demon in the name of Mura. So one who takes shelter of the boat of, who has accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, For him, the ocean of the material world is just like water contained in a calf's footprint. That means we see, normally when we see a calf and a cow going together, the calf's footprint are very, very small. So how much of water can be contained in that footprint? So for one who has taken shelter of the Lord's lotus feet, for him to cross over the world, material ocean, is like just like that water, small quantity of water contained in a calf's hoofprint. So their goal is Vaikuntha, Param Vaikuntha, the place where there is no material miseries. Whereas those who don't take shelter, they are in this material world where there is Padam. That is, there is a danger at every step. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said that this world is Dukkhalayam Asashvatam. That means this world is nothing but a place of misery. So one has to take shelter of the Lord to become free from that. In this respect, Srila Sridhara Swami also mentions that the Lord's lotus feet are described as Pallava, is another meaning for the sloka, which means flower buds, because they are very, very tender and pink, of a pinkish hue. So the Lord's lotus feet is also very, very tender. In fact, Mother Yashoda used to be always anxious when Lord Shri Krishna would go for grazing the cows and etc., thinking that there may be stones and pebbles and all which might hurt Lord Krishna's lotus feet because they are very, very tender. That was the anxiety she had. And according to Srila Sanatana Goswami, the word Pallava indicates that Lord Krishna's lotus feet are like desire trees, which can fulfill all the desires of Lord's pure devotees. So the Lord's lotus feet are like desire trees, and desire tree means that which can fulfill the desires of anyone. And here there is a specific mention about the Lord's pure devotees, because pure devotees don't desire anything else from the Lord excepting to render service to the Lord and his devotees. So this is, and the Lord fulfills also those desires also. So from exalted devotees like Narada Muni, who are the shelter for many conditioned souls, even they seek shelter at the Lord's lotus feet. One more quote, the 10th from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Kaliya, the poisonous snake, who vomited poison in the Yamuna river, the Lord climbed on the head of Kaliya and he started dancing in the process by kicking him. So the Kaliya snake is offering a prayer. He says, "My dear Lord, I have been so offensive unto you, but still you are so kind that you have marked my head with the impression of your lotus feet." So though Kaliya was a very poisonous personality, still when the Lord danced on his hood, he praised that the Lord was very merciful to him by leaving a mark of his lotus feet on his hood. This is how the importance of the Lord's lotus feet is. The next point that we come to is that one who has completely surrendered the lotus feet to the Lord, depending fully on him for maintenance, for personal maintenance, or even for the maintenance of his family, can attain perfection by recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is full of narrations of the pastimes of the Lord and his devotees. So Srimad Bhagavatam describes about the pastimes of the Lord and his devotees, and only one who recites the Srimad Bhagavatam will be able to successfully preach the glories of the Lord if he has surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord, depending fully on his maintenance and the family's maintenance. That means if somebody has surrendered fully to the Lord with the understanding that Lord will take care of him as well as his family, when such a person, surrendered soul like that, recites Srimad Bhagavatam, then that has perfection, then it has an importance and it has got an effect also. Whereas one who has got some expectation in the process of reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, any material result, that will not have perfection because his consciousness is contaminated with a personal desire, and the consciousness with which he speaks will also be diluted. This is one point. The next point is that the audience also must be faithfully receptive to the Bhagavatam message. One should be in a position to receive the message with a proper attitude, and the reciter should completely depend on the personality of Godhead. So Bhagavatam recitation is not a business where we transact with the Lord that I will recite this and you give me this. And if that is the case, it's a sort of a business which the Lord is not happy. If done in the right way, not only does the reciter achieve perfection, but the Lord is also very satisfied with the reciter and the audience also. And they all become liberated from material bondage by the process of hearing. Otherwise, there are so many professional reciters who, here in the purport, they mentioned they ask money to extinguish the blazing fire within their bellies. So many who recite Srimad Bhagavatam expecting material results, particularly money, they will not be able to recite Srimad Bhagavatam perfectly, nor will they make any spiritual progress. Rather, it is like a blazing fire in their belly, and they are expecting something in return. So when such a person recites Srimad Bhagavatam, there is no effect. Example is that we see that many times there are Bhagavad Sapta where they recite Srimad Bhagavatam for 7 days continuously. And in the process, what happens is that they may recite for the 7 days and take some money for the recitation. But the effort, they may get some money, but spiritually there is no result. And Bhagavatam is meant for Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for raising someone from a material platform to a spiritual platform. So those who recite, they don't get benefit accepting some money. And those who hear, there will be no effect on them. It is just like a hearing any other story and going. They will leave and go. But there will not be any spiritual benefit for such hearers also. Therefore, it is said that one should not treat it as a profession to earn a livelihood. So such reciters are not spiritually well placed, and nor should they depend on the law, expect anything for their family's maintenance also. Not only them, but their family's maintenance also. They cannot expect any type of remuneration. So in this respect, there is also a quote in first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which we all know, we recite regularly. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata seveya bhagavati uttama sloke bhaktir bhavati naishtigi. So Bhagavad Sapta is done for 7 days, whereas Bhagavatam in this sloka itself, Srimad Bhagavatam mentions that it is nityam. That means every day. Bhagavatam has to be recited every day and should be heard every day, not for 1 week. So the translation says, by regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendent songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So one who recites Srimad Bhagavatam and one who hears Srimad Bhagavatam, one who renders service to pure devotees of the Lord, to them all the anarthas that is there in the heart, they are completely destroyed. And the result is that they start rendering loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised by transcendental prayers. There is also a quote in first canto, second chapter, 14th sloka, which is Tasmad ekena manasa Bhagavan Shashvat Satpatam Pati Shrotavya Kirtitavyasya Deya Pujas Chanityada. The translation is therefore, therefore means this is the conclusion which Prabhupada always says. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. So this sloka starts with therefore. That means it's a conclusion. What one should do with one point attention, one should constantly hear. First, one should hear about the Lord. Then one should glorify the Lord. One should remember the Lord and worship the Lord who is the protector of the devotees. I'll give one more sloka, which is also very important. Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridayantastohi Abatrani Vidunoti Suhrit Satam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his message, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So here the importance of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam properly is emphasized. That means the Lord is situated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. And when one has a proper desire to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from a proper devotee, then by hearing, what happens is one loses the desire for material enjoyment and develops an urge to hear his message, which themselves are very virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So when one hears, then one has to chant the glories of the Lord also. What one hears, one has to repeat to the others. I'll come to a little more in detail in this a little later. But the point is that one who hears Srimad Bhagavatam from a truthful devotee, then what happens is that by the process of hearing, the anarthas keep going away from the heart of that such a devotee, and he starts developing a taste for hearing more and more, which are very, very virtuous. Why? Because the message of Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, Lord is absolute. So anything related to the Lord, whether Bhagavad Gita, which is the instruction of Lord to Arjuna, or Srimad Bhagavatam, which narrates about the Lord's pastimes, they are all on one absolute platform. There is no difference. Like, for example, we might cry out the name of somebody, either a relative or friend, but the person is different, the name is different. But in the case of the Lord, when we cry out the name of the Lord being absolute, the Lord is non-different. So when we are hearing, we are associating with the Lord. And the Lord who is situated in the heart, he starts cleaning these anarthas which everyone has got. I mean, the Lord who is situated in the heart, he knows the seriousness with which a person attempts to hear the message. And then he paves the way for cleaning his heart. So this depends on the quality of our hearing and our applications also. Many times we may hear, but then we may not apply it in our life. So it is very important that whatever we hear about the Lord or his pure devotees, we should also apply those lessons, whatever we can take in our life, by which the dust that is accumulated. We don't know who has accumulated how much of anarthas in so many lifetimes. The more anarthas we have, the more hearing is required very eagerly, so that the anarthas will be cleared. When the anarthas become cleared, then one reaches a pure stage and starts rendering service to the Supreme Lord. If we see Srila Prabhupada itself, he set a very extraordinary example when he went to USA with the desire to fulfill the order of his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura. At the time, Srila Prabhupada did not have any resources, but still with whatever he had, it is said that he would go and try to buy commodities at the prices where, or at the shops where, at the places where it is available at the lowest, because he knew the value of money, and Srila Prabhupada was very, very concerned with spending even a single penny. And then he would not only bring, he would cook by himself, and then he would give it to the Westerners who would come. And in the initial stages, it is said that the Westerners would come because they didn't know the culture of India and the Vedic wisdom also. So they would just come, eat Honor Prasadam, and then they would go away, leaving the pots as it is. They didn't know that the pots had to be clean. So, but they all relished the taste of Srila Prabhupada's cooking. So they would come regularly, but then they would hear Srimad Bhagavatam and then honor Prasadam, and then they would leave. And they were all hardcore materialists who were addicted to intoxication, drugs, and then illicit sex, meat eating, etc. But as they gradually started hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita from Srila Prabhupada, their understanding started to deepen further and further, and they came to know what is devotional service. The reason is that it is said that Srila Prabhupada's message penetrated deep into their heart, and that is how Srila Prabhupada transformed many hippies and so forth to happies. They were all suffering actually, but they did not realize that they were suffering. But when they got association of Srila Prabhupada and heard from him regularly and honored Krishna Prasadam, which was cooked by Srila Prabhupada himself, they all became happy and they all became very, very happy. And then they gave up all the bad habits that includes drinking tea and coffee. Normally, Indians are used to drinking tea and coffee and they find it very difficult to give up. But these Westerners gave up even tea and coffee. That was the power of Srila Prabhupada's classes which he gave. Not only that, Srila Prabhupada established the system of marriage, which they had never heard of. I mean, they even those days they used to believe in live-ins and so forth. But Srila Prabhupada established the system of marriage. This was all because he was a pure devotee. The message he conveyed was also very pure, without any personal interest. So this sloka that we are discussing today is that reciting Srimad Bhagavatam uh, without any personal motive or interest. Many times people recite Srimad Bhagavatam also expecting that they would be glorified, saying that, oh, he is a good speaker, etc. Even that type of an expectation, or that is puja, patishta, labh, is a material expectation. So such reciters may not have an impetus on what they speak. Of course, then Srila Prabhupada established the worldwide movement of International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada, actually, when he was giving Srimad Bhagavatam and even other times, normally what happens is that when someone gives a class, there is a system of raising questions and the speaker gives answer. But during the early days in the Western countries, the Westerners would come at any time and disturb Srila Prabhupada, asking so many questions because they were all new to the Indian culture and Vedic wisdom. So they would ask so many questions to Srila Prabhupada, but Srila Prabhupada was so patient that he would tolerate and then answer to the extent possible. And that is how he converted them all to pure devotees. And today we are taking this knowledge from his disciples. The Srimad Bhagavatam is meant to cut this knot of material desire. We have material desire, which is the cause of bondage in this material world. And we have so many attachments to so many things. And when such a person has such attachments and when he recites Srimad Bhagavatam, there is no effect on him, there is no effect on the hearer also. But when one hears from a proper source like Srila Prabhupada or his pure devotees, then the cleaning of the heart takes place and one starts developing the taste for further hearing. So in Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, there is a quote, Librittatarshayar Pagiyamanat Bhavaushaddat Chotram Manobhiramat Ka Uttama Sloka Gunanuvadat Puman Virajyeta Vina Pashubnad. The translation says, glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is performed in the Parampara system. That means one who recites Srimad Bhagavatam should come from a proper disciplic succession. It's a very important point because many reciters who are not in a proper disciplic succession and they may not convey the message actually given by the Parampara. So the message is lost. That is, it is conveyed from spiritual master to a disciple. For example, we come from Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya. So it's a bona fide Sampradaya where knowledge comes from Krishna all the way in a disciplic succession to the spiritual master, and from a spiritual master, it is conveyed to the disciple. And what happens, such glorification is relished by those no longer interested in the false temporary glorification of this cosmic manifestation. That means whoever engages in discussing the topics which normally Srila Prabhupada calls it as Gramya Katha, this is false glorification. Either we have to glorify the Supreme Lord or we have to glorify our own kith and kin or our friends, society, etc. So when glorification of the Lord is done, then we don't have a taste for glorifying others. And finally, the translation says, description of the Lord are the right medicine for the conditioned soul undergoing repeated birth and death. Therefore, who will cease hearing such glorification of the Lord except a butcher or one who is killing his own self? We must understand this. So, once one comes to know the importance of glorifying the Lord, that is the right medicine for a conditioned soul like us. We are undergoing repeated birth and death. And finally, the verse concludes by saying that who is a fool? I mean, killer of one's own self means killer of the soul. Soul does not have any death. But in this respect, it is said that one who does not value the human form of life is a killer of the soul because he continues to transmigrate from one body to the another. That is why it is called a butcher or one who kills his own self. That means he is ruining his human form of life if he doesn't hear the glorification of the Lord. And when one knows that, yes, it is having an impetus in me by hearing my anarthas that are getting clean, who is that fool or who is that who will stop hearing such a glorification? Then the next important point is that teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam comes from person Bhagavata. So there are two types of Bhagavatas, person Bhagavata and book Bhagavata. So when a person Bhagavata recites about book Bhagavata, or he speaks exactly what Krishna speaks, then the important point is he should be able to walk the talk. In English, they say walk the talk. One should not only be able to preach, but also practice what is preaching. So if a common man who comes to hear the class sees that this person is preaching something else, but in effect he is not practicing what he's preaching, there will be duplicity and such these things will not have any impetus even if he speaks. So the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam is to re-establish one's lost relationship with Krishna. In front of Sukadeva Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj did not boast of his achievements or his qualifications. Rather, very humbly, he said, I am a soul surrendered unto you. So, this should be the mood of a hearer also. Unless and until he surrenders, he will not be able to relish the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. Parikshit Maharaj also said, I have 7 days before I die. Please tell me what is the goal of life and what is the duty of one who is going to die. That means this is Parikshit Maharaj asked two intelligent questions. What is the goal of person who is going to die and what is the person, one's goal of life? So not only Parikshit Maharaj, when Parikshit Maharaj asked these two questions, all those who were present were also hearing with rapt attention for 7 days without food and water. That was the perfection of perfect speaker like Sukadeva Goswami and perfect hearer like Parikshit Maharaj. So it is said that one should be very inquisitive. I mean, unless and until a person starts questions to himself, why am I born? Why am I suffering? Uh, he will not be able to taste transcendental messages. So one must be very receptive with an open mind without any reservations. Also, one should think always that he does not know anything on the spiritual subject matter. Then one is able to hear properly and ask questions. If someone thinks that he already knows this, that means he doesn't know anything, because if he knows everything, he would have progressed considerably. So one should always try to think that I don't know anything and hear with a proper mindset. The next important point is that a speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita must be free from all vices. There must not be any sinful propensities in him. Also, one should not hear from a Mayavada. Normally, Mayavadis, when they will speak very attractively to attract a person, but they will leave some sort of a residue in the course of their speech, which clearly indicates that what they claim is the Lord does not have a name, the Lord does not have a form. So, in effect, they deny the form of the Lord. And such reciters and those who recite for money or fruitive activity, their consciousness will not have any effect on the hearer. Then there is an important point that one should be very sincere. One should not have any duplicity. One should not have a pretension. There should be a genuine feelings. The hearer should have a genuine feeling to hear and serve Krishna. And the person speaking does not manufacture anything on his own. So the example of hearing from Mayavada is given like milk touched by a serpent. Srila Prabhupada always gives this example. Milk is very dear, and the serpent always likes to drink milk. But once the serpent touches the milk, that milk becomes poisonous. Similarly, by hearing from a Mayavada, one hears a poisonous message. Therefore, one should not hear from Mayavada. There is an example, similar example in third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Vidura, there is a conversation between Vidura and Maitreya. So Vidura addresses Maitreya, in which he says, "My mind is very inquisitive, and therefore I am not satisfied with hearing the narrations of the Lord. Please therefore speak more and more." So Vidura's example is the right example. He says that my mind is very inquisitive, and it is not satisfied by hearing more and more. So please speak more and more. So the more Vidura is hearing, he feels that he is, wants to hear more and more. That should be the right mood of a person who is wanting to hear. There is a pastime in Chaitanya Bhagavat where there was a person, the name of Devanand Pandita. Now, this Devanand Pandita used to regularly recite Srimad Bhagavatam. So one day, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was passing by, Mahaprabhu was the Supreme Lord himself, and he knew what was the mood of Devanand Pandita when he was reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. He knew that Devanand Pandita did not have any devotion, but he was reciting. So, but a lot of people respected him as a great teacher, but he could not understand the meaning of the translation of the sloka or even the purport, because he had committed an offense onto a devotee. I think it was Srivas Pandita. So one day when the Lord and his devotees were passing by on the road, the Lord heard his recitation. And since the Lord knew that Devan Pandita was not the right person to recite Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord became very, very angry, and he said, "What kind of explanation can this fellow give? He has never understood the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam in any of his lifetimes. What qualification does this fellow have to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam?" He further said Srimad Bhagavatam is an incarnation of Lord Krishna in the form of a book. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service is described the ultimate goal of life. The four Vedas declare that Srimad Bhagavatam is a manifestation of ecstatic love. The four Vedas are like yogurt, and Srimad Bhagavatam is like butter. So when we churn yogurt, we get what is called butter. This was the process in the Esther years. Of course, nobody does it in these days in their homes. But in the Esther years, people used to churn yogurt and then get butter out of it. Then the Lord narrated the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam in anger and said that rascal doesn't know a thing. This fellow never mentioned this devotional service in his explanation. And watch how I tear up this book today. So the Lord was so angry that he told his associate that I will tear off the Srimad Bhagavatam. But somehow, as the Lord went to him to pick up the book, the Vaishnavas held him up and said not to do that. So the Lord said that those who think they understand Srimad Bhagavatam does not actually know the conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam. That means those who think that they know Srimad Bhagavatam very well, which I mentioned before also, one should approach in a very humble manner as if one does not know. If one has understood, then what happens is that he should be perfect. But we should approach Srimad Bhagavatam in a mood that we don't know anything. And the main conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam is devotional service. If one hears Srimad Bhagavatam, then one comes to a state where he's in a position to render service to the Lord. So there is an important point that is mentioned where it says that one who chants. So the process of hearing Bhagavatam and understanding Srimad Bhagavatam begins with chanting, Shravanam. We say Shravanam Kirtanam. Why? Because when one hears, then one should kirtan, one should speak also what one hears. Then that remains in the one's memory. So one should first chant the name of the Lord. Then one should hear. When one chants and then hears the name of the Lord, I mean, in ISKCON Srila Prabhupada has established the chanting of 16 rounds as a principle. So if one chants, then one is able to hear the message properly. Then one reads, his understanding becomes better. And then if he's able to, it doesn't end with that. One has to apply this in one's life. When one applies, then he realizes that what is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam is true. And then when he preaches, then the preaching becomes successful, or it has got potency. All are interconnected. That means chanting, hearing, reading, understanding, and application. Application is very important. Whatever we learn, we must apply in our practically in our life. That is why this Palastuti is also given, because many hardcore materialists might have initially a material desire also, but by hearing the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj, the anarthas have to be cleaned. So all these are interconnected. And then what one applies and realizes, he gets a lot of realization. Then his preaching becomes successful. In another example, the Lord was staying in the house of a Brahmana in that village called Varahanagara. And this Brahmana was reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, and the Lord, after hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from this Brahmana, he started dancing ecstasy, and he started dancing. He almost danced for about 9 hours continuously. And then the Lord named him as Bhagavata Acharya, and telling him, he gave an instruction that your only duty is to recite Srimad Bhagavatam. This is an example as to how the Lord himself set an example. So one should receive these teachings by through submissive inquiries and service attitude. Submissive inquiry definition is given. It's a proper attitude. There is no ego between the speaker and the hearer. Neither should the speaker have any ego, nor the hearer should have any ego while asking questions. There should be a free flow of talk between both. And one should always respect the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam as a representative of Vyasadeva. Not think that I need to hear, than think that I know better than him. One should not think that he knows better than what the speaker is speaking. If one starts thinking like that, then that attitude is wrong. Then one should be obedient. Then one cannot release Srimad Bhagavatam unless and until one is surrendered to his spiritual master. One should be very anxious to hear. Another important point is that humbleness. One has to develop that humility to enter into the miseries of Srimad. There are many mysteries in Srimad Bhagavatam, many pastimes, many intricacies. But unless and until one develops a humility to hear, he may not be able to understand these mysteries. Mysteries mean mysteries. So when both the speaker as well as the hearer are qualified, then the process becomes complete and perfect. Srila Prabhupada always quotes a very important point that purity is the force. So the purity is very, very important. One of our acharyas in our Sampradaya, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura, in his commentary says, devotees hearing with faith is my remuneration for speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. That means he says that when somebody hears Srimad Bhagavatam from him, then he apparently what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura is expecting is that devotees hear with faith. That was the humility of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. So when there's a good audience who are prepared to hear with intent, in proper intent, then the recitation is performed that way without any professional motive. The Lord becomes happy with the reciter, and the Lord becomes happy with the audience also. So this is in a nutshell what I could get from this class today, subject today. If any of you have got any questions or comments, they can ask me.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandava Pranam Prabhu.
Dhanavad Prabhu.
Thanks for the wonderful class, Prabhuji. Very, very good, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, like normally we say lotus feet, lotus face, like this of Krishna. We should concentrate on lotus feet.
Yes.
Why it is called lotus feet, lotus like this? Prabhuji? Lotus is used always, and what is the importance of that, Prabhuji, please?
Okay. Lotus is supposed to be the best of flowers in terms of, in every respect, is the most beautiful flower amongst all the flowers. So similarly, there cannot be anything better than the Lord. That is why comparison is given lotus feet, lotus face, because uh, comparison is the best possible comparison that one can understand. Normally, at least in the beginning stages of devotional service, one finds it difficult to comprehend the supremacy of the personality of Godhead. So when we give an example, like Lord is compared to a lotus flower, then it becomes a perfect analogy. That is the purpose of comparing. Lotus looks very, very beautiful. I mean, one should have that mood to see the flower also. But if one is a fan of flowers, you can see that lotus is the best of the flowers, having a good complexion. And the lotus also, another example Srila Prabhupada gives is that the lotus floats on the surface of the water, but never takes any dust from anywhere. It's always above the floats above the water. So the Lord is also transcendental to the three modes of nature. That is another example.
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji, yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. So, and in the purport also, Prabhupada says that like what I understood is like one who surrenders to the lotus feet of Krishna.
Yes.
So you need not worry of the maintenance of the family and other things, and everything will be taken care. Something like that.
Yes.
So can you highlight more on this, Prabhuji? How to surrender to lotus feet and etc.
Now, the thing is, many times questions come in our mind that if I give up my profession, who will take care of me and my family? Now, as long as one has got that thing, one may not be able to. That means, in a nutshell, it expects a person to surrender unto the Lord. So, if somebody thinks that my family cannot be maintained, that means he is not surrendered. So, one should surrender unto the Lord, and of course, it doesn't happen over a period of. It doesn't happen instantly. It happens over a period of time. So if one has given up that intention, yes, I don't have any material expectation from the Lord will take care of me and my family. That is full surrendership. At that stage, what happens is that whatever he speaks, uh, it becomes true. In fact, our acharyas also say that if one chants 16 rounds and observes the four regulative principles, whatever speaks becomes true. Because at that point, if you are very sincere, uh, whatever you speak becomes true. So, in a nutshell, it's a process of surrender to the Lord. Many times we may have doubt what will happen if I leave my job. And of course, when one maintains a family, some economic considerations are there. But then we see that many who have a lot of wealth and still they continue to work hard day and night. It's because desire is never fulfilled.
Yes,
So
Prabhuji.
satisfied with whatever they have and leave it to the Lord. At the same time, one cannot say that I'm surrendered, but then that mode of surrender is on a mental platform than physical surrender.
Mm. Moreover, Prabhu, like normally when the trust should be there towards like that faith and the trust that Krishna will take care. That
Yes.
should come within that doesn't come very easily, Prabhu.
Yeah,
And
that's what
moreover, even if if we have that mood also, the
yeah.
family says that yes, you have to do karma, like you have to do work. If not, Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita, one should do karma. So you have to
Yes.
work. Yeah. So these all questions they come Prabhuji. So how can we develop that pure that trust and the faith that yes, Krishna
Prabhupada
will take
also
care.
that one should work to keep his body and soul to maintain one's body and soul, to keep one's body and soul intact. That means one should not over endeavor. Krishna says you have to work, but he does not say throughout the lifetime from birth to death, all the time you continue to work, um, uh, because that is then greediness. Whatever you have, you are not satisfied with it. So, one reason why we hear Srimad Bhagavatam is that this is also one anartha, say, the greed, lust, anger, greed, envy, and all those things. So, if we hear properly and apply in our life, then the Lord knows who is seated as Paramatma. He knows how to guide this lost soul. He makes directions. The Lord Himself states in Bhagavad Gita itself that when he sees a soul's genuine interest, then he takes off all connections with his family, his profession, etc. That is the time he knows that now I have nothing else but to surrender to the Lord. The Lord makes that arrangement if the genuine desire is genuine.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. It's clear, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Dandapada. Jai.
Anybody else? Any other questions, comments? If not, then I'll take the class as closed. Thank you all very much. Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.